Welcome back to the McCoy Leadership Podcast, elevating your impact through valuable insights and conversations about leadership. Welcome back to the McCoy Leadership Podcast. Today, we're excited to have Mark Teague with us. Mark has went from being a farmhand in Texas to being a financial guru as well as leadership executive. Mark, how did you get from being a farmhand to being in leadership and finance? How did that happen?
Great question. It's a great journey, great story, and the necessity of life. My wife and I grew up farm and ranch in the Texas Panhandle. That was our background. Our families homesteaded there, actually, at the turn of the century, the early 1900s, the late 1800s, and that's where we got our start. We were both born and raised there. We grew up together. We have a picture of me attending my wife's second birthday party when she turned 2 years old. We're very proud of that. So we have a very old-fashioned American story, very traditional. We grew up in that environment. We met her living there for years, and we were married in 1986. And in the mid-'80s, the farm economy was quite difficult. Cash flow was very tight. So we looked at the general economic factors around us and decided we should make a change. So we went to graduate school. I had a bachelor's in agricultural economics. We decided to turn that into a graduate degree. We went to Oklahoma State University, earned a doctorate in ag econ, and joined the banking and finance industry at that point. That turned into about a 30-year career, that venture. And, per your topics, your leadership topics, that story gave Melissa and I an experience that is fairly unique. We went from old-fashioned America, where we grew up was very much 1700s America in terms of values and incentives. In the farm economy, it's very simple. You don't work, you don't eat. It's very straightforward, very uncomplicated. Well, we went from that to the modern world, banking and finance, service sector, knowledge economy, and the incentives aren't nearly as straightforward. So I found a challenge there that could only be met with leadership. I needed to make our business plan. We needed to meet our numbers. I needed a team that could function at a high level. So through that challenge, what I discovered was if you will reach back into the past and grab the old-fashioned principles that are tried and true and find a way to apply those in the modern environment, you will find great success. And that involves a great deal of leadership. So our experience, which is our journey, led to some very deep discoveries of principles and how to apply them. And that's been a fascinating life, to be honest with you. And I think it will resonate with your listeners.
So interestingly, in my consulting business, I work with a group called the Feed Advisors, and I do specialize in feed mills. And so I'm very close still today to the agriculture world. And yes. So I'm kind of, I'm picturing you show up to the bank boardroom with your Stetson on and your Spurs. And you realize, oh, wait a minute, I'm in a different place today. And you face that challenge, and I'm very interested and fascinated by what you bring out in your book, bringing the old American values with modern applications. But I'm also curious, some of those things like deciding, do I plant barley and then corn? Do I, whatever, those major decisions on a farm are.
Yes.
How did they help you, specifically as you're creating this system that you have? How did that lifestyle really start to shape what you ended up coming up with?
Yes, sir. That's a great question. It's something important for your listeners. I think there are two components to decision making that are critical, and you need to be good at both. One is the technical side. For instance, in farming, you have the technical aspects of production, how barley grows, what works and what doesn't, how to apply fertilizer, how to cultivate it. You have all the technical side of growing crops. And now if you move into a different industry, you are changing that set of technical factors. And you need to be willing to accept that. That is an aspect of life. That's an aspect of freedom that we all must accept, the necessity of change. You need to be willing to change. There are a whole lot of folks that want to set and choose about their living and their livelihood, but they don't want to change. Well, life is going to roll right over you. It's just going to pummel you. On the technical side, you need to look at the environment you're in and become an expert, become the best around. That's why I went to graduate school. I wanted a set of technical skills that nobody could match, and that happened. They found it. They gave it to me. And that's what you'll need to accept as a free citizen, someone who wants to participate in the marketplace. Whatever environment you're in, become a technical expert at that. If you're farming, be a production expert. If you're marketing, be an expert in your product, in your consumers, etc. Now, there's a second piece that is just as important. That's values, principles. What do you believe? Your character. That is of high importance. You need to bring both to the workplace. And the first piece, the technical side, where you need to engage and become an expert, well, that requires work ethic. That requires integrity. That requires your values. You need to buckle down and go to work. Are you going to blame somebody else because you had to change? Is it somebody else's fault? Are you looking for someone to be a scapegoat? You're not succeeding because of somebody else. Or are you going to take personal responsibility, become an expert, show high values, high character, and engage and succeed? You have to do both. If you fail on either side, you will fail in the marketplace. If you're not an expert, you will be exposed. If you have poor character, you will be exposed. You need to bring both. So when you bring those two elements together, you will find great success, and the pressures of life give you a chance to be good at both. Be a technical expert, show high values, high character, high principle. That's quite important.
I love that. And I think, for our listeners, just, to reiterate, be the best technically at what you do and have good character. And interestingly, this is just opportune. So I am also kind of I guess I'll publicly say it's a hobby. It's a business, but I am also an auctioneer. Mm-hmm. And I am preparing for an auction that is next week. And just by chance, I found a letter in this group of things from 1961. And if I may, I think you'll find this interesting. This is from the owner of a feed mill that bought this feed mill in 1922 and sold it in 1938. And so hence my interest, because I work with feed mills. But I just want you to hear this. I want our listeners to hear this because we don't talk this way, and I hear you saying we should. 38 years ago, 38 years ago, with God as my partner, I purchased the elevator. It was then nothing more than a little business by the side of the road. I ventured into this business with a trembling heart and very limited finances, but with youthful energies and confident that God would bless us as we pledged our future to Him. To you, my precious friends, goes the credits for having helped me build this business and make it prosperous and successful during the years from 1922 to 1938, so that today, some 38 years later, it is still around and reputable and prosperous, for which I am very thankful. It was your warm-heartedness and conscientious cooperation that built a business of such stability in these days of keen competition and unstable circumstances.
Amen.
And just to kind of, put that in context for all of our listeners, they bought it in 1922, ran it to 1938. Well, in that time period was the Great Depression.
Yes.
And they prospered. I just think that, is a great reminder of what good character is. So I'm sorry. It was opportune to share that.
That is fabulous. And you might also note that they had just come out of World War I.
Yes.
And we're headed straight to World War II. There was tremendous 1938. You're staring right at the beginnings of, Europe was in turmoil, and it looked as we were already involved through the merchant marine and such. So it did not look good. And here's a point I think your listeners will benefit from. I'm an economist by trade, so I understand markets and trade and manufacturing and production quite well. Level, also a down in the dirt, get involved area, both from my background and through my banking career. You'd have to understand, in the realm of economics, in the realm of trade and business and commerce, there's only one value that's inherent. That is gain. Seek gain. Well, there are lots of values that are necessary for that to work well, but you have to bring them. You bring them to the game as an individual, as a participant. When it comes to honesty, integrity, hard work, character, those things, you bring that as an individual, and it's a must-have. If you don't have that, commerce itself will fail, and we need to understand that. So I would encourage us all, be unashamed in reaching back to the old-fashioned values and bring them into a modern world. You're going to face something as you engage in pressure-packed decision-making. You need something bigger than yourself. You need a bedrock. You need a foundation. You need a North Star. You need a compass, something that tells you what is true north, what is right. You need to think carefully about that, what that is. Everyone's going to have one. I've chosen mine. It's the Almighty. It's the God of the Hebrews. I bow my knee to him. I get my values from the scriptures. I unashamedly take those, study them, try to apply them. Now you add technical skill to that and the willingness to engage, you have a successful marketplace. Without those two things, the technical side and the value side, you have a disaster. You either have incompetence or you have lack of integrity. Your efforts will fail based on either one. We need to commit to both and be completely unashamed and completely bold and confident about that. Unashamed in declaring that I have a base of values. I have a North Star that I've committed myself to. Some would say they just depend on themselves. I find that to be inadequate. I'm flawed. I don't have the stuff. I'm not big enough. I can't meet the challenges of life, but I can get to a foundation that it's solid, rock solid. I'm completely unashamed of that. I hope everyone is encouraged by that.
Well, I would agree, and I'm encouraged just listening to you. That how important those pieces are, and how many times we miss that. And sometimes people will ask questions when we work with clients. We work with them to create their own mission statement, their own values, and
Yes.
90% of the time with my clients, those are based around God and around biblical practices. But my point is, even if that's not the case, if you don't have a mission, how do you define success? If you don't know who and what you're serving, how do you define success? Now, thinking about it, I guess the question that I would ask is, you came from being a farmhand and making your living there, getting an education and moving into finance and then large companies. American Express, you were with Toyota, I believe, for a while.
Yes.
Why is it that also at the same time, so many people, when you talk about change, when they maybe were working at Toyota on the floor making, manufacturing cars and trucks, and then they get an opportunity to make a move, but they can't let go of what yesterday was, and they never quite succeed. They might be a great supervisor, but they never become a leader. What keeps people from making that step?
Well, the willingness to change needs to be inherent to your commitment to freedom and prosperity and progress in the human condition. And I would say it helps a lot to understand context. So one of the strengths of my education in economics is you get exposed to the history of economic development. It's easy to get caught up and wrapped up in our problems today, and that's where most of the turgidity and the unwillingness to engage comes from. You get wrapped up in the immediate pressures, and you're not seeing a bigger picture. Well, when it comes to the economy, there is a much bigger picture. You know, this did all start in 1973 down at the mall. There are thousands of years of history that have brought us where we are, brought the human race. And you can understand it through a phase and stage approach of economic development. And the vast majority of the human race has gone through stages of development that are common. You can look at almost any developed economy and developing economies and third world economies, and you can see those today, and you see it over history. And it's basically this. All of humanity started in a tribal nomadic phase. You hunt, you fish, you gather, you go out and kill what you eat. Humanity spent thousands and thousands of years in that state. Then comes the agrarian phase. So humanity discovered the intentional cultivation of crops brings a more stable food supply. So that began to develop. Well, with that, you now get cities, you get roads, you get trade, you get commerce. That starts to take place. Well, that covers all of the beginning part of humanity. With that, we now get the Industrial Revolution. And by most accounts, that started in 1760 in the UK, in the British Isles. Well, just think about it. It's about 265 years ago. All of humanity is engaged in tribal nomadic, hunter-gatherers, then agrarian. And now we have the last 265 years that have brought us to today. We have massive change, rapid change over the last 2.5 centuries, basically. Well, those things have brought us to where we are. Now, look at the workforce in those phases. So you go from tribal nomadic to agrarian to industrial revolution, and then you have the service economy and the knowledge economy. And that's what we're in today. If you go through that, look at the workforce associated with those phases. Tribal nomadic, it's individual. The individual must perform. Agrarian, still individual. Now, I grew up in that phase, the agrarian phase, and we've crossed over those other phases. Melissa and I have done that personally and wound up in the knowledge economy, right square in the middle of it. Well, look at the workforce. You go from individual effort to individual effort in agrarian. Now, the Industrial Revolution, you now have a mix. Individual and teamwork. Teamwork starts to become formal. It's baked into the production system and processes. Now you go to the service economy, it's all teamwork. You go to the knowledge economy, all teamwork. Now you can ask yourself what comes next in that phase and stage. One thing is we're going to space. That's clear. It's already happening. In the private economy, it's being baked in. We will go to the stars. We've been to the moon, we'll go back, we're going to Mars, and we will progress from there. What about that workforce requirement? It's still teamwork. So now when you get to change, Amos, here's the thing. Teamwork over the course of thousands of years is baked in to the workforce. You must succeed in a team environment. What's key to that? Leadership. Leadership, you must have it. It is a must for a team to properly function in order to meet your business plans and reach your goals. That history, you can look at the entire history of the human race has brought us to where we are today. We are not going back up that ladder. There are some groups that would say we should go back to agrarian. We should go back to tribal nomadic. Well, you're a moron. That's like Pol Pot, and his crew and year zero in Cambodia, that was their goal. Well, they just killed about 2.5 million people to reach their goals. It just murderous thugs preach that. So that's just not going to happen. Humanity is going forward. We're going down that chain of progression toward progress, toward profit, toward gain. Okay. It's going to be teamwork all the way. It is baked so deep into the requirements. There is no substitute for it. That means leadership. That's how important it is. So back to your question, how do you get change? You have leaders that understand it. They understand those core principles that are eternal, those principles were here before we got here, and they will be here long after we're gone. You understand those, and you bring it in. You can bring people forward based upon those principles. Then that's how you get it done. And that's the difference in Toyota and other companies. I had an 8-year span, 7.5-year span at Toyota. Fantastic company. They're so committed to quality and product development. It's because it's in the DNA, it's in the nature of their company. They have their values built around that. And I would make one last comment to your clients. When you form your value statement and you're working through that, take it very seriously, mean it. You have to do it. If you're just coming up with words, all you're doing is making yourself a hypocrite. And people will see right through it. It has to be something that you will actually do. You will take action on. Toyota actually did that. They valued quality, and they made it a part of the company. It was baked in. They put out the best products you'll ever see. So that's how you get it done. It's baked into the economy. It's leadership.
So switching gears slightly, a question just popped into my mind. Excuse me. So I would agree the world's moving forward. If we want to be in business and want to be leaders and so on and so forth, we kind of have to go with it, make the best out of those things. Now, there's nothing wrong, to your point, of reaching back to those values that have been around for thousands of years and leaning on those to kind of be your North Star. But what are your thoughts on all of the, if you think, I think you said you got married in 1986. From 1986 until today, the amount of information that we process and the amount of gadgets and computers and phones and all of those things that are at our fingertips, how important is it for a business professional today to take time away from all of those things? And I'm what was going through my mind is going to a cabin and having a kerosene lamp and a fire rather than, is it important to go back and touch your roots is what I'm really asking, to go back and spend a week hunting, farming, whatever that is, to get away from everything else. What are your thoughts?
There is no question that it is. And I think the proper framework, Amos, to look at that is those things are tools. They are tools to help us get things done. It's kind of ironic that social media has made us socially dysfunctional. You might think about that for a while. It's because we're misusing the tool. We're not using it properly. But think back ancient years, it's no different than fire. It's no different than a knife. Those things are tools. Think about the first caveman that crafted a knife. Well, I can gather food with it. I can make it handy around the house. I can kill somebody with it. Just depends on how I use it. It's the same thing with a cell phone. It's a tool. I have a stick of fire. I can use it for things that are good, or I can burn my house down. I can burn your house down. I can cause mayhem with it. It's up to me. It's how I use it. And all the technology that we develop, they're just that. They're tools. AI is the same way. AI is artificial intelligence is making a big impact. It's a tool. It's something that we have created. It's up to us how we use it. Will it be for good or will it be for ill? It's up to the user and how we create it. So that's how I see it. That's how I see technology. It's inevitable. It's important that we use it properly.
I like it. So what would be some actionable steps for our listeners if somebody is looking to build on what we have talked about thus far, really reaching into the past for those values? What are some actionable steps of ways that they can kind of start if they're listening and thinking, this makes sense. I don't have a mission. I don't have any values. What are some actionable steps that might help them get started on that path?
Well, I would like to recommend my book. I wrote it for that reason, to get people started. It's a Working Man's Guide, and the website is a great place to go. It's the title of the book, A Working Man's Guide. Just drop the apostrophe, keep the A. You'll gain a lot of information there. I would say the very first place to get started is stop wringing your hands. Find something good, do it. Get busy, get on it, make something happen. Things will build from there. You will find direction from there. A moving ship is far easier, easier to steer than one dead in the water. So get busy. Find something good that's right around you, get on it, and now you're going to discover what you like, what you don't like. You're going to discover what you're good at and what you aren't. You're going to discover some natural talents. You're going to find relationships. You will start networking. Now you can build on those skills. You can enhance those skills. There are many opportunities for education. Once you find what you're engaged with, what you enjoy, now develop that. Go down that path. Find that. That's like the very beginning element is get busy. Go to work. Stop sitting around wringing your hands, waiting for something to fall into your lap. Make it happen. There's something good around you that needs to be done. Go do that. That's where you start. You're going to then build that into a path. That will be a journey. That will be a life. That's how you get started. And the reason for my book was to lay out base principles that will help people do that, to get on that path.
I like that. One of my early mentors, I was in a really tough spot in my career, and personally as well, when I probably early mid-20s. And I said, what do I do? And they said, well, do something. And then they went on to explain, every day, do something. You know what the goal is. Do something that gets you closer. And if that item didn't work today, do something different tomorrow. And if it did work, do more of it tomorrow.
Yes.
I loved that.
Yes, sir.
So what are the biggest challenges that you see that people have if they start to adopt? Where are the roadblocks? What are some of the stumbling blocks that they run into?
Number one, the biggest one of all, is you need to accept life for what it is. It's a series of problems coming your way. Don't try to view it any other way. If you try to reject that or you deny that, you're just making yourself a victim. And you're going to be a whiner, a complainer. You're going to look for someone else to blame. Or you can just accept the fact that life is a series of problems. I need to be prepared. I need to be ready for that. I need to make myself a problem solver. Now I have a chance. I have a chance to get something done, to achieve, to create things in life. But if you see life for what it is, then you will be prepared. You will build skills. You will build strategies. You will build techniques. And I think in today's world, that's a dividing line. There are lots of people that think they're too good for that. That's a hassle. That's beneath me. I'm above that. I should not be hassled with problems. And it's always someone else's fault when they come along. Well, that's deceptive. That is not seeing life in its natural state. It's a series of problems coming your way. What are you going to do about that? Are you going to be prepared and be ready? That's the number one thing. Make that choice up front. Accept life for what it is. Now you have a chance to succeed. It's not a guarantee, but it's a chance. If you don't accept life as the nature of it, it's going to roll right over you. You don't have a chance at all.
So as you were talking there, and I was kind of thinking about as each one of these new tools becomes available to us, it also creates a level of complexity. So back to, the hunters and gatherers, to your point, that was individuals. There was still some complexity there because they had to have, an idea of the seasons and, where did the buffalo go and do I follow them or do I stay here? And then you move on to the agrarian age and there becomes some more complexities. Do I bring water? Do I wait for it to rain? What do I do? And then today I would say those complexities are even more, and it seems like as we get more complexities, we become more divided as well. Yes. So what are your thoughts of the future of leadership as we continue to go? And not, are we going to space or not, or well, we are, but you understand, I'm really thinking about what do you think that future of the leaders are? What are going to be the next things? And will these principles, they've worked for thousands of years so far, will they continue to work?
Yes, sir. That's a great question, Amos. One worth serious consideration. I'll tell you a couple things I want to say there. One, there's something about our country in the United States here that encourages me a great deal. Freedom is on the ballot every day. Whether or not we can maintain our free and civil society is an open question. Some days it looks pretty bleak. But there's one thing that encourages me a great deal, and that is across all stripes. And you're exactly right about division. The more complexity that life brings, the more change. We seem to find division in all of it. We seem to like that. There's something beneath that has become settled, and that's the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments of the U.S. Constitution. Across left and right and middle, the entire spectrum, the vast majority of Americans hold that to be sacred. Those values, principles, those freedoms and liberties at the individual level, that gives us a future, that gives us hope. We have common agreement on that. So I am very encouraged by that. Now, a little more practical in the professional side of things, I would say this. Amos, here's the future. In terms of leadership is a must. Teamwork is absolutely a must. It's never going away. There's something that as I struggled to get a team in this modern world formed around those old-fashioned values, there's something I discovered, and I formalized it in my management approach. I called it the Impact Index. And chapter 6 of my book is devoted to this, but I developed it, I used it, and I found it to be very effective. You can create a measurement that helps you bring teams into focus and make them high performing. And that is, you don't focus on titles, you focus on behavior. So the first thing you notice when you walk into an organization is the org chart. Who's the president, who's the owner, who's the VP, the EVPs, who's in the middle, who are the entry-level jobs, et cetera. That has very little to do with whether or not that organization will succeed. In fact, sometimes that is the number one barrier to success, is that org chart. What matters is behavior, fundamental behavior. Well, here's what you can do. Take two ideas and form a ratio. One is ambition. One is capability. You want to look at your employees through those two concepts. Ambition, what do they want to do? What is their desire to do? Capability, competency, can they actually do? Now you create a ratio of those two things. If ambition far outstrips capability, you're going to have a train wreck. If capability far outstrips ambition, you have wasted resources. You have expense that is not being used. Both of those things will kill your organization. In leadership framework, you will take people to a point where they're true professionals. They understand your goals. They have high ambition. They have developed the capability to match that ambition. They will gladly lock arms with other true professionals and get things done. That is a high-performing team. I use that principle. I use it formally and informally. It's very helpful. It gets you down to raw behavior, base behavior. That's what takes your organization to success or not. It gets you beyond words. And again, ambition at the top, capability on the bottom. If you want to be formal about it, you just measure them, put them on the same scale, and divide. You want that to be around 1. If the number is low, that means you have capability that's not being used. If the number is high, folks are trying to do things they're not skilled at doing. You will have a train wreck. The high ambition, think Ken Lay and Jeff Skilling of Enron. We all remember Enron Corporation. I call those meteors. They're going to crash. It looks really good for a while. They're going to crash. On the bottom end, I call them deadbeats. They're sucking expense out of your organization. You're going to die either way. One will be dramatic. One will be slow. You're still dead in the end. If you want a high-performing team and a successful organization, you must have true professionals. They have balanced ambition and capability properly, and they're set upon your goals because you've made those clear as a leader.
I like that. And you spawned something in my mind. We use what we call the congruence model, which is really looking at, what their beliefs are about whatever their job is, Are their values lined up with the company values?
Yes.
With their commitment to activity, their belief in product, and there's a few other pieces. But what it boils down to, and I love adding, I mean, in my mind, I'm thinking, I need to add ambition and capabilities into that, which
Yes.
capabilities and abilities kind of could fit together. But the whole idea,
Yes,
the
they
whole
do.
premise is that if any of those one areas is out of congruence, then their commitment to activities is going to be lower.
Yes.
So I think that is a wonderful analogy that you have. As before we go into our last little session, I did want to make sure one more time, how can people, you mentioned your website and your book, and we'll be
Yes.
sure to have those in the show notes. But if people are thinking, man, I really would like to hear more about this, how do they get in contact with you, or how can they find out additionally more?
Yes. Email is great. Teague6@yahoo.com. That's actually on the website. And also, I'm happy to provide my phone number for someone. So I would say go to Facebook /Dr. Mark L. Teague or /A Working Man's Guide. Drop me a message, a DM, and I will engage personally and directly and answer all of your questions. I'd be happy to. That's a great way to start it.
Awesome. And we end every episode with a rapid fire questions. They're the same questions for everybody. I've often joked and said, after we get about 100 of these interviews done, that I'm going to publish all this great information and I'll get rich. I'm kidding. But
I hope you do.
The first question is, and this is actually an addition in recent times, but throughout your life, what is the single best piece of advice that someone has ever given you?
Oh, man, so many come to mind. I have to credit my parents. They taught us three things, many values, but three things above all. 1, be honest. 2, work hard. 3, be respectful. And those were taught with consequence. You would do those whether you liked it or not. They stuck. They've been with me my entire life. Those three things, those are ancient principles. They work. We need them more than ever. Be honest, work hard, be respectful.
I love it. The next question, if we could magically get all of the school administrators from across the United States into one room and you had a moment to address them and give them one thing that you think would make an impact in the schools, in the student's career, and would turn out a better prepared, well-rounded student, what would that one thing be?
I would teach the impact index. I would emphasize to them they are focused on that bottom number, capability, what a person can do. It's critical. You must have it. They will not succeed without it. I would emphasize the teamwork side of life. And I would say this, the impact index works because underneath that is something deeper, and it is character. The whole thing starts with honesty. Are you willing to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I want to do this. I want to be the president of this. I want to run this. I want to do that. The next question is, can you really do that? Do you have the skills to get that done? Have you worked hard enough to have the capability to get that done? It all starts with honesty with yourself. And I would say to those teachers, understand the nature of the workforce you're sending these kids into. It demands teamwork. Understand the importance of skills. It's half of the index that will determine whether or not they succeed. And understand that underneath that is the foundation of character. They must be honest people. That's what I would say.
Awesome. The next question, throughout your career, what has been your go-to book that maybe you continually, or you've had on the bookshelf and you continually go back to?
Well, I have to go to the one that's most important, the one that gets most reference, and that is the scriptures, the Holy Bible, no doubt about it. You go back to that one more than any other. On the technical side, now you go to other places, and that changes with the circumstances. I have econometrics, statistics, optimization, problem solving, etc. But on the notion of values, how you treat people, how you behave, what you value, the Holy Bible. There's nothing like it. It's a book like any other. It's truly amazing. Applicable for all times, all people, all circumstances. It is a book for the ages.
Awesome. Last question. In today's ever-changing world of technology, apps, gadgets, and all of the things that are at our fingertips, what are you using that you find useful today?
Well, we're heavily into social media. I have been heavily into coding, both the fourth languages like spreadsheets, et cetera, use those heavily, but even more base coding languages, C++. I use those often in my career. Now it's more of the advanced user stuff, more spreadsheets, and social media is very important. Artificial intelligence is important. It's a good place to start. It gives you some good reference points. I would caution everyone, never stop there. That is a summary tool. It is not actually, you need to understand that, artificial. That's exactly what it is, artificial. It is not native organic intelligence, and there's no substitute for that. If we create AI capable of harming us, which we can do, then we're stupid and we probably deserve what happens to us. But AI is a current tool. It is very powerful. Never take it as a final source. It's a good place to start.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for spending some time with us here this afternoon. Well, I guess it's your morning. It's my afternoon, but thank you for taking time out of your day to spend with us. We appreciate having you on here.
Amos, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much. You're a fantastic host.
Well, hopefully we can get you back on again in the future. I think we could probably talk for another hour or two if we had that time.
Easy.
For our listeners, if you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to check out our past episodes, and don't forget to like us or follow us on whatever platform you're listening so that you get those alerts whenever the new episodes come out each week. Until next time, we appreciate all of you.